Welcome to your astrology forecast for the week of March 17th through March 23rd. I am your astrologer, Laura Chung. Welcome back. Just for your information, if you're new here, I am a Western tropical astrologer and I use the whole sign house system. So, just as far as a little recap, we just had the lunar eclipse, the total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo on March 14th at 23 degrees of Virgo. And I tried to stay up as late as I could. I even set my alarm for 2 a.m., but I couldn't see it here where I am. But I saw pictures that my friend took in Jersey, and wow, that was a blood moon. It was very striking to see. And I feel like that was an omen for times to come. I don't know about you, but in terms of a recap, Venus and Mercury are now retrograde, the inner planets. And so these are relational planets. So they say during Venus and Mercury retrogrades that people from our past will come back. They could be friendships, lovers, exes, business partners, people that we used to work with, just people from our past. And if they don't, that means that you've kind of done your work and you've closed that cycle or phase in your life. And if they do, that means that somebody from the past needs to come back to your present moment to close that chapter, to tie up loose ends, which is why astrologers don't usually recommend starting new things during retrogrades, because that means that you might have to go back and change something. But I already broke the first rule of Venus retrograde. Was I cut my hair, I got my bangs cut. So who knows if I'll regret it after Venus goes direct, but hey, you got to live your life. So I say if you are going to start something during a retrograde, then make sure you know what your time lord is or what aspects Venus and Mercury are making in your chart. And yeah, like bless the stars. If you feel like you have to start something new, like you can't just stop everything, right? But I believe that these retrogrades are amazing times to review and reflect so that we know what steps we need to take moving forward. The biggest thing that happened that caught my attention was on March 10th, Mahmoud Khalil was taken by ICE. He is a Columbia graduate student, and he was the leader who helped students protest for Palestine last spring. And this should be shocking to all of us. This should affect all of us. All of us should be up in arms about this, because essentially this is an infringement of our First Amendment right to freedom of speech and press. And protesting for genocide, it should not be controversial, people. Like, this should not mean that they could just come in to any building that you're in and arrest you and take you, without due process, without actually like abiding by our First Amendment rights. Like, it's just absurd at this point. And to be done at such a mass scale and everybody seeing it and being broadcasted on the news, it should be very shocking to everybody, and how threatening students are to the movement. So that is all kind of on par with the energy of the eclipses. If you think back to the eclipses of 2024 in the spring, that's when the student encampment started, to Venus retrograde in Aries. That also gives this revolutionary resistance, protest, activism energy. If you reflect back, in January of 2017, that was the Women's March in DC when Trump first got elected into office. And that Venus retrograde in Aries was March and April. And actually, fun fact, the last time there was an eclipse in Virgo was September 1st, 2016. That was before Trump's election the first time. And so we're kind of repeating a cycle here 8 years later. And yeah, I think, we're in this time between eclipses, between a full moon eclipse, that's a lunar eclipse, to a solar eclipse, which is a new moon eclipse. So this is the waning phase of the moon. We're allowing things to go. We are not resisting the change. We're surrendering to the flow of life and trusting our intuition and trusting the God within each and every one of us. And I just want to say that if you are here watching this and you're looking for an astrologer who's doom and gloom, you've come to the wrong place. I will always be real, but my intention is to empower people, to ignite the God within each and every one of us, the goddess in each and every one of us, the co-creator within each and every one of us, because we came here at a very specific time in history to bring our magic into this world. And together we're meant to change, because history and astrology, they don't repeat, but they do rhyme. And so these energies are available for us to recognize a pattern and then break that pattern, break the wheel so that we could liberate ourselves and the ancestors that came before us and after us. Excuse me. With that being said, on March 17th, the moon will be in the sign of Scorpio, which the moon doesn't love being in Scorpio. It's fallen in the sign of Scorpio. So it's a little like, it's a little feisty, it's a little moody, it's going deep. And the same day, the sun in Pisces will conjunct the North Node in Pisces at 27 degrees. The sun is our life force energy. It's how we shine. The sun gives us energy. The sun gives us the nutrients for us to have enough energy in our body to sustain our life. And the North Node, which is Rahu in Vedic astrology, the head of the dragon, this is what we need to consume. This is what we need to take in order for us to get the nutrients in our body. And then K2, which is the south node, the tail of the dragon, is where we excrete the things that we don't need. We take in the nutrients and then we poop out the rest. So the North Node is really about our destiny. It's about following our intuition and following where the signs and symbols are guiding us towards, because it's the sign of Pisces. It's not something that we can quantify. It's not like mathematical. Sometimes it won't even make sense, but it's something that is deeply embedded in our ancestral DNA. And I'm even talking like ancient ancestors, like possibly even our star ancestors. So the sun in Pisces conjunct the North Node in Pisces. This is again to reconnect to your purpose. And honestly, like I say all the time, our purpose is just for us to be who we are, to connect to the magic within, to surrender to the unknown, and to speak to the divine within us and the divinity around all of us. On March 19th, the sun in Pisces will conjunct Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees. And this is the last degree. This is the anaretic degree, the ending of a cycle, right? Because the next day it will be Aries season. So there's something to be said about the sun making a connection to Neptune before Neptune changes signs into Aries as well. It's like, okay, what is our imagination telling us? What is our dream world telling us? And I always like to quote Robert Hand, who says, Neptune is our reality and Saturn is the illusion that there ever was. I love that quote because literally our imagination is what reality is, but it's up to us to bring that heaven down to earth. Neptune is also unconditional love and our spiritual sense that we are all connected. Of course, it is the delusion and illusion, it's the fogginess, but I like to see Neptune as, yes, it can be malefic, but it can also be this like unconditional love that you spread over the collective like a mist, and that you can't necessarily connect with every single being on earth, but we are all connected on earth. I love the Sufi poet Rumi's quote that you're not a drop in the ocean, but you're the entire ocean in a drop. It's perfect sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces. So this is like a renewal of the sun and Neptune, and to reconnect to your imagination and your dream realm. So dreams could be very potent during this time. And like I mentioned, the biggest transit of this week, in my opinion, is the sun's ingress into the sign of Aries, which is a cardinal fire sign. And I just wanted to read some notes that I took of the Aries equinox. So the equinox is exact at 5:01 a.m. Eastern time. So if you are oh, it still happens on March 20th though. This will be really early in the morning Pacific time. And this is when there's equal light and dark. For astrologers, the Aries ingress or the equinox is the new year. Right now, we are still sitting in last year's energy, Pisces season. So, this is a profound time to release and to surrender. Take some time this week to prepare for the new year by setting intentions and calling in the energy you need for the upcoming year. In the northern hemisphere, it will be the spring, and the southern hemisphere, it will be the fall. When the sun ingresses into the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, at the 0 degree, the 0 point, the new seasons initiate. In esoteric and spiritual traditions, the 0 point is oneness, everything and nothing all at once. The 0 point symbolizes our connection to God and to each other. So, this is a profound moment to set your intentions for the new year, to set intentions for your manifestations, and to call in the energy that you need to do your mission here on Earth. On March 21st, Venus retrograde in Aries will sextile Pluto in Aquarius at 3 degrees. And you can think back to February 7th when this happened, but they were sextile at 2 degrees. I love this transit. It's such a powerful, attractive, passionate transit. This could definitely be the transit where your ex comes back, an ex lover, perhaps, because Venus is retrograde this time. This is a profound day to call in your sexual energies, understand the erotic. There is a great essay by Audre Lorde, and I might have even mentioned this in February when this transit came up. Audre Lorde has an essay about the use of the erotic, and the erotic is not just sexual, it is passion, it's this lust for life, it is the spark that is the Kundalini energy rising in our body. So it's a very powerful and potent day and transit to use that to do sex magic, to call your power back, to do some ritual. I love this because Venus is retrograde. So Venus is in the underworld. You could read about Inanna's descent into the underworld, which tracks the Venus retrograde cycle. And Pluto is obviously the god of the underworld, Hades. On March 22nd, there is a Venus cazimi at 2 degrees. So a cazimi is when the sun and the planet reset. So it's a conjunction. So Venus and the sun come together and reset. And I love Venus cazimis because Venus is being reborn. So before this, Venus is in the beams, which means it's like the sun is burning away the toxins. Venus is burning away limiting beliefs and old attachments. And just like, everything in nature goes through a death process. And now with the cazimi, Venus is being reborn. Venus is going from an evening star to a morning star. I was personally born during a morning star Venus, which is the more warrior, masculine, yang expression of Venus. And the evening star is the more feminine yin version of Venus. So this is a potent day to, again, like clear away relationships that no longer serve you. I'm sure you have been thinking about this since March 1st when Venus went retrograde. But again, the cazimi is a rebirth, it's a renewal. So you want to reclaim your power in relationships. You want to reclaim your worth and value. You want to reclaim your sovereignty and your agency in relationships as as signified by Aries. You want to say that abundance is my birthright and there's abundance everywhere around us. And it's just greed and hoarding where resources are not equally distributed amongst us. So I'm going to be the warrior of justice. These are all things that you can meditate on and even write about during this Venus Cazimi. And on the same day, there's a third quarter moon in Capricorn. And so this is the phase of the moon where we are coming to a crisis point. So, like I mentioned, there will be a solar eclipse in the sign of Aries on March 29th. So, this is the halfway point between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. And so the third quarter moon in Capricorn could be a moment where you say, I'm breaking away from tradition. I'm breaking away from the structures that have upheld my life so far, the belief systems that have been calcified. I'm just thinking of like Capricorn terms. And it is interesting because the moon started out this week fallen in Scorpio. And now the moon is in its detriment in the sign of Capricorn. So there's something about our emotional bodies and our feelings of not feeling safe and secure within all of this change and disruption, right? And so I actually was taught by an indigenous elder that grounding looks differently for each of us. Not all of us, actually, most of us with ancestral trauma cannot ground from by just sitting still and being calm because that re-triggers trauma within our bodies. Some of us need to ground through walking. That's how I like to ground myself. I like to walk in nature. I like to touch trees. I like to sit on the roots of trees. Some people need to dance it out. Some people need to literally shake their hips and twerk so that all of that stagnant energy is released. Some people need to run. People need to bang pots, drums, swaying forward and back, side to side. Some people need to tap. So whatever you need to do physically to ground, again, that doesn't mean just like being calm and sitting still, but moving your body in a way that feels good for you. On March 23rd, the sun in Aries will sextile Pluto in Aquarius at 3 degrees. And this is very reminiscent of when Venus was sextile to Pluto just 2 days before. And now the sun is here. And this is like a power move day. This is like, I'm going to take charge of my wounding, my traumas from the past. I'm going to transmute them and I'm going to reclaim my power. I'm going to show up in a community because, you know, the sun in Aries is like the leader, the pioneer. Aquarius is about community and the collective. And sextiles, I'm saying all these positive things about these sextile transits because they are supportive. They are 60 degrees. So while some of those topics of your past traumas and relationships that didn't work out in the past, and I don't even just mean like romantic relationships, but relationships of all kinds can come up during this time. But ultimately, I think this is a power moment where you say, okay, like it's a part of my story, but it's not my story. It's like as a victim of and survivor of domestic violence, family violence, I don't necessarily relate to the title of a victim anymore, or even survivor. Like those were very specific points in my life. And now I've transmuted enough to say, yes, I was a victim of that. I survived that. But now I'm like, that doesn't define who I am. I'm a co-creator of my life. And so I think a lot of these topics are going to come up because, again, we are in a Venus and Mercury retrograde, and they're happening at the same time, which is, again, I think the universe orchestrates these cycles for us to do the inner work so that we are ready for what's to come. If you are ready for that invitation, if you are ready for the change, then March will be welcomed energy. But if you are resistant to change, if you're resisting to looking within, and how also you might be the perpetrator of oppression, because we all have the oppressor within us because we were raised in these systems, then it's the month of March is going to be very difficult for you because so much Aries energy is about self. It is the sign of I am and the warrior at the end of the day. So those are the major transit that are happening this week. It's a big week. We're going from a mutable water sign, Pisces, to a cardinal fire sign. So any like sleepiness and fogginess you might have felt during Pisces season, boom, we're taking action in Aries season. So as always, I hope and pray that you are safe and that you are healthy. And I will see you next week. Bye.